Hello and welcome to my craft room. This is Angie with theCountryChic.Cottage.net and we're here today with another great craft video. So let's get started making our project for today. Today we're going to make some fall mason jars. You'll need some pint-sized mason jars, some paint. I like chalk paint. I'm using 4 different colors plus a 5th for my stencil. You'll need letter stencils, burlap ribbon, as well as twine, a paintbrush, and some scissors. The first thing you want to do is clean and paint each jar. To clean the jars, just use some rubbing alcohol, rub it all over the jars, and allow those to dry, and then paint with your chalk paint. I find that 1 coat of chalk paint is sufficient, but you may find that you need 2. We're just going to paint the jars completely, all the way to the top, and then allow those to dry. Now the jars themselves I did in 4 different colors. I used red, yellow, orange, and brown. You can pick whatever colors you would like for this project. I like to paint my entire jar and dry it actually upside down on a piece of paper and just paint that bottom last. We're going to repeat the same procedure for all 4 colors and then set those jars aside and allow them to dry. Then we can start on our burlap ribbon that's going to wrap around the jars while these mason jars are actually drying. So for the burlap ribbon, we're going to use a ruler. And we're going to measure the burlap ribbon pieces. So we'll need 4 pieces, and each of those about 11 to 11.5 inches long. And we're just going to cut that with a pair of scissors. And once we have all 4 pieces, we can actually stencil those. So as you can see, I protected my work surface with a piece of paper. And then I'm using a 4th color of paint, which is a black, on my stencil. So this is a letter stencil. And you can actually stencil these letters onto your burlap ribbon, or you could even use something like iron-on. You could use a Sharpie to color in your stencil. You could do this part a variety of ways, just depending on what you have and what you would like to use. So I'm just stenciling the letter, and this is actually a 2-piece stencil. So the letter actually has kind of a shadow around it, and so you actually do the first part of the stencil, remove it, and then add the second stencil over the top of that for that shadow portion. So once I do both stencils, then I can set my ribbon aside to dry, and I'm going to repeat the same procedure for each letter in the word fall. Now again, you can spell whatever word you want here, but I like to keep it simple with the word fall and just have 4 jars. And now we're going to wrap those burlap ribbon pieces, once they're dry, around our dry mason jars. And we're just going to use a hot glue gun to secure that into place. So we'll just wrap it around the center of each of the jars, apply a bead of hot glue, and then press that ribbon into place. And here I'm actually using a silicone fingertip, and I will link to those below in the description. They definitely keep your hands from being burned, especially when using hot glue with burlap. The hot glue tends to seep through that burlap and burn your fingers, which is why I really love that silicone fingertip. So we're going to hot glue both ends of that burlap ribbon, and we're going to repeat the same procedure for all 4 of those jars. So each jar will get a burlap ribbon wrapper with a letter. And then when you have that burlap on all of your jars, it's time to wrap them in twine. So I just like to wrap that top area in twine. So the top where your mason jar lid will go, or that threaded area, just wrap that with twine several times. And this is just like a plain jute twine, and you could definitely use any twine that you would like. So if you don't like the brown jute, then try like a baker's twine with some color. So just wrap it several times, then cut it to length, and then tie it off into a bow in the front. Again, you could just do a knot here, you could do a bow like I have, you could do, just whatever you wanted to. Let your imagination kind of run with this and make it all your own. So once you've completed 1 jar here, you will need to do all 4 jars the same way. Again, all 4 jars get a burlap wrapper, and all 4 jars will get twine around the top. And I also like to, after I have my bow and my twine into place, I actually like to fray the ends of the twine. And I do this just by kind of pulling apart the strands of the twine, and this just gives it a little more of a rustic appearance. Completely optional if you don't want to fray those ends. Once I have all 4 jars complete, it's time to add them to my fall decor. So I'll just take each of these jars and put them in an area of my home, whether that is a mantle or the center of my table for Thanksgiving. So you just put them in order to spell the word fall, and then you can fill them with all kinds of flowers. Enjoy! So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you will make the project that you saw today. If you loved this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. You'll also want to head over to our YouTube channel, as we have tons of creative videos that you might love using a Cricut machine and other crafty videos as well. You'll want to subscribe while you're there so you don't miss any of our new videos. You can also ask any questions that you have about anything we've covered today in the comment section below, and we will get to those as soon as we can because we love comments. Thank y'all so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.